Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, June 26, 2014 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Indian River County. The first item on our agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. Jordan, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. Item number 2 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 22nd, 2014 Planning and Zoning meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, if when someone makes a motion and it is seconded, when you announce the vote, if you can say, I have a motion made by Commissioner so-and-so and a second by Commissioner so-and-so, that will help our clerk immensely in the proper taking of
Todd made the motion.
Very good.
Jordan seconded it. The vote was unanimous.
Excellent.
Item number 3 is an item that's not on consent. It's Falcon Trace Phase 3. It is a request for preliminary PD plan plat approval for Falcon Trace Phase 3.
Yes.
This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Let me first ask the Planning and Zoning Commissioners, please speak up now if you have had any ex parte communications or any contact that would not allow you to make an unbiased decision on this matter. Anybody had any such thing?
No, I have not.
No. Okay. The answer is no. And then, should I do the swearing in now or after the presentation from staff?
Do it now. That'd be fine.
Let's do it now. Okay. Anybody who plans to speak on this matter this evening, please, we're going to do a swearing in. Thank you.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Yeah, no, we'll do another swearing in on the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. This is a preliminary PD, and it will be presented by Mr. Sweeney.
Good evening, Chairman Zimmerman, members of the Commission. Tonight is a application for preliminary PD plan plat approval for the Falcon Trace Phase 3. I'll briefly go over the plan development process. The first step being the conceptual PD plan and concurrent special exception use approval, which was granted ultimately by the Board of County Commissioners back in February 17th, 2009. That use approval runs with the land and does not expire. Tonight is the second step, the preliminary PD plan, which is ultimately approved at the Planning and Zoning Commission level. The third step would be a land development permit or land development permit waiver, which is granted at the staff level. And then ultimately the final step is the final PD plat, which goes back to the Board of County Commissioners. The subject site is located at the southeast corner of 27th Avenue Southwest and 21st Street Southwest, immediately south of the north half of Falcon Trace project, which was phases 1 and 2. Here is a current aerial, relatively current within the past few months, depicting the existing site conditions of the site. The preliminary PD plan contains a total of 135.24 acres, and it proposes 258 units at an overall density of 1.91 units per acre, and is consistent with the conceptual PD plan that was approved back in 2009. The stormwater system consists of a number of wet stormwater ponds that all outfall to the south to the Indian River Farms Water Control District canal at the south end of the project. It also has been designed as provided in the conceptual PD plan to accommodate storage for the 20th Avenue Southwest improvements that were completed by the county. The original traffic impact analysis that was provided, again with the original Falcon Trace project, indicated a number of off-site traffic improvements that were required in order to construct the project. And all of those off-site improvements have been completed with the exception of the dual egress connection at 21st Street Southwest, which will be provided in conjunction with this phase. Also, there is a secondary emergency access provided on 20th Avenue Southwest for fire protection. The buffer plan includes a 25-foot wide Type B buffer with 6-foot opaque feature around the entire perimeter of the project. The 6-foot opaque feature is provided in the form of a berm with landscape. A detailed landscape plan will be reviewed and approved at the land development permit stage. And also the buffer for the southeast corner of the site is a 70-foot to 140-foot wide conservation area with supplemental native plantings that will be provided. The environmental conditions on the site include 9.6 acres of wetlands, which have been placed under conservation easement dedicated to the St. Johns River Water Management District. There's also 7.3 acres of uplands, which will be placed under conservation easement either prior to or via final plat of this phase. The dedications and improvements required for this phase include permanent drainage easements for the 20th Avenue Southwest road improvements, again, that this project has been designed to accommodate. Sidewalks along the thoroughfare plan roads, including the remaining segment along 27th Avenue Southwest, the entire segment along the south side of 21st Street Southwest. The 20th Avenue Southwest sidewalk segment has been provided via fair share contribution per the developer's agreement. There's also, again, the conservation easements that are remaining for the upland conservation area that will be dedicated either prior to or via final plat of this phase. And internal sidewalks within the project will be provided in accordance with Section 913.09 of the LDRs. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the preliminary PD plan plat of Falcon Trace Phase 3 with the conditions listed in the staff report and related to the final landscape plan, the conservation and drainage easements, the landscape buffers, and the perimeter and internal sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this matter this evening? The applicant? Is the applicant present? You don't have to say anything if you'd like to, though. Now's time. No? Okay. Well, do I have a motion, then?
Make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Mr. Bragnano made the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rednauer seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
And so we move to item number 4 this evening, which is a public hearing. It's a quasi-judicial matter. It's the Roseland United Methodist Church and a request for special exception use approval to construct a stabilized parking lot to serve the existing church. A couple of interesting things. Mr. Rednauer is a member of the church. He has informed us that he is going to abstain from both the conversation and from the vote this evening. And so the first thing I'll ask now that you're here, Maria, is has anyone had any ex parte communications or any contact that would keep them from being able to render in any of their, other than Charles, and keep them from rendering a fair decision in this matter? No. Okay, none of us have.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rednauer needs to state his conflict on the record. So if you could explain your conflict, Mr. Rednauer, and your reason for abstaining, please.
I'm a member of the church, and I also was part of the planning of it. So I don't think I can make a fair judgment on this.
Very good.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Fair enough. And then before staff gives their presentation on this, this is also, because this is quasi-judicial, anybody who thinks they may want to speak about this matter, please stand now to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. The testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please say aye. Aye. You're good. Please be seated.
We're ready for our presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Zimmerman. John McCoy with the planning staff, and I'll be presenting this item tonight. This is a special exception use, and the reason it's a special exception use is because the subject site is zoned RS3, and the proposed parking lots in association with the church place of worship, which are special exception uses in the RS3 zoning district, and that's the reason for the special exception requirement. Process-wise, special exception uses need to meet the specific land use criteria. In this case, the land use criteria for churches were applied. They need to be appropriate and compatible. Compatibility of the requested use is to be considered. There are 2 public hearings, the first of which is tonight and at the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. And in the recommendation, they're supposed to make a recommendation to approve with conditions, or to deny the request. But the final decision is the Board of County Commissioners, and that will be at the second public hearing. The site is located in Roseland, and Roseland's at the very north end of our county. And the subject site is located along Roseland Road on the north side of Roseland Road, on the west side of 129th Court. And the subject site is zoned RS3, as is all the surrounding, or as are all the surrounding sites, are all zoned RS3, residential, single family, up to 3 units per acre. This is an aerial of the site. The site's in red. The church is to the north. The office and pantry are to the south. Roseland Road is to the south. And Roseland Road is a main road in the Roseland area. It connects US 1 to County Road 512 on the south, and it's one of the major roads in the area. The area that is the subject site was platted in 1911, so it was platted quite a while ago. So from a perspective of development standpoint, it's one of the older portions in the county, and the aerial shows the development pattern fairly well. The next slide I'd like to go to is the layout of the proposed parking lot area, and it's essentially 9 grass parking spaces accessed by a milling driveway. The driveway stabilized with millings. The church is, again, to the east of the subject site, office and pantry to the south across the alley, and the alleyway's right in the middle, and the office and food pantry are to the south of the subject site across the alley. And this is similar to the grass parking lot to the east at the church, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. This is the traffic circulation. The way the traffic circulation is designed is traffic would should come from Roseland Road, enter the alley. Once they're on the alley, turn north, access the parking lot. When leaving the parking lot, the circulation system is designed from both a design standpoint and a signage standpoint to direct traffic back to Roseland Road and not have it go into the neighborhood. Next item I'd like to touch on is the landscape plan. There's a type B buffer required adjacent to any adjacent residential properties. So the type B buffer on the west and the south side of the subject site, and then a local road buffer on the 129th Court and the alley, which is again similar to the grass parking lot to the east across 129th Court. With that, I would like to get to the recommendation. Staff does recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the board grant special exception use approval for the church parking lot with the condition as stated in the staff report that the buffer be constructed. And again, that's prior to operation or use of the site. I would like to point out one other thing. I did receive an email late today. I printed a copy, gave it to the attorney, and gave it to the clerk. Did not distribute it to the commissioners as, this is quasi-judicial, and I didn't want that to essentially be an ex parte communication. So there is an email that the attorney has and that the clerk has that should go into the record at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you want to tell us about what the email is?
It'll become part of the record. It's not subject to cross-examination. It's just a simple letter concerning the project. You can take a look at it later on if you want to, but whether it's for or against really doesn't make much difference.
Any questions of staff before I open the public hearing? Okay. The public hearing is now open. A little bit of advice. We've had lots of these over the years, and I can tell you it's been my experience, and I'm sure that of the fellow commissioners here, that the most persuasive arguments are the ones that are respectful, particularly of the opposite point of view, and are brief and friendly. So anyone who feels that they would, I guess I would ask the applicant first. If the applicant would like to speak first, if there's a representative of the applicant, I think I'd like to hear from them first. Yeah? Oh, we have two people coming forward here. You're the civil engineer? Why don't you come forward first? State your name and address for the record, please.
Todd Smith, 121 Hinchman Avenue in Sebastian. I'm the project engineer. And as John explained in the staff report, this project is very passive use of the property. Basically, we're proposing 9 grass parking spaces and providing a milling stabilized drive aisle to improve the traffic circulation that's on the alley. The use that this area will serve is an existing use at the church, which is a food pantry that's currently existing, and basically it's people that are hungry that are coming to pick up food. The facility operates 3 days a week, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There's approximately an average of about 5 cars an hour, 20 cars a day on those operational days, and the purpose of this is to provide some grass parking so that cars stay off the alley. They can park on the grass parking and also provide a little bit better traffic circulation from the alley back in a loop, one-way circulation back out onto Roseland Road. John had the landscape plan up. There's a substantial amount of landscaping that we're putting in to beautify the lot and provide shielding from the adjacent properties, a series of large canopy understory trees and shrubs that should provide a solid 4-foot high barrier along the road frontages. And I'm available for any other questions that commissioners would have, and at the commission's approval, I'd like to also reserve to speak at the end in maybe response to some comments that may come from the public.
Yeah, we'll take you up on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you the representative from the church who is going to come up and speak following the civil engineer? I'll invite you to do so now. If you just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ginny Earnshaw, and I'm co-director of the food pantry. Our initial need for this was because we have a very short parking lot on Roseland Road, and they were backing out into the heavy traffic. Now, we do have a lot of older people that we felt this was very dangerous for them to be backing out into the traffic, so the idea of having this parking lot behind them, being able to have the alley that they could come through and go out, would eliminate them being the use of that road, backing into that road. We serve about 400 families a month. There is a great need that we have, but our people double up when they come. They come 2 in a car and 3 in a car, so the traffic isn't as heavy as you might think it would be. But we do have probably 20 cars maybe in a day that would be coming through there in a 3-hour period. So it's not a real big traffic problem. And I just want to bring that to your attention and hope that you'll be able to allow us. We have the money to do it. The Plan Bank Committee already has awarded us an award to build this parking lot if it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else care to speak on this matter this evening? Anyone object? Please come forward. Well, you're what? Either way, please come forward. Just your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ann Godbold. I'm the pastor at Lewiston United Methodist Church. I live at 807 Mulberry Street in Sebastian, Florida. And the one thing I want to say is how many people in the north end of the county utilize this ability to help them who are in need. When I moved here about 7 years ago, we had about 70 boxes a month. And Jenny has shared now we have between 400, sometimes 450 a month. And so the need has grown greatly. And the needs are people from all walks of life, families with children, veterans, people who are homeless. It's just amazing the amount of folks that come. Many older adults come who have a choice between buying food or buying medication. The service is just incredible what it does for our county. And having this safer way of a driving pattern will make the area safer for those who come, but also for the Roseland area itself. So I felt that was important to share the incredible growth. And I was interested that I heard that the lot was in 1911 was the original time of the lot. Our church just celebrated its centennial in March. And so the church has been there 100 years.
Congratulations.
Ma'am?
Ma'am, sir?
Thank you. As far as how does the food get to the church?
How is it provided, you mean?
How? I mean, does it come in trucks? Or?
Yes, sir. Well, it comes in multiple ways. We have many people throughout the community who make donations. We have people who give financially to the ecumenical food pantry. It's housed in our church. Excuse me, but it is an ecumenical group. And also we have the Second Harvest that has a big truck that backs in and unloads and so forth. So we have multiple ways that the food comes to us. Many churches can have a food drive monthly within their churches and bring it to us. But we have organizations like people that go to the Elks Club, for example, the female Elks, I don't remember their name. Thank you, the Eldos. I cannot remember their names. But for example, they collect and bring food monthly. It's amazing how many different people in our community and the north end of our county bring food in to help us and help this ability to serve so many people. And it's just amazing, and no one's turned away.
How many trucks a day would you say?
Oh, not a day. Once a week.
Just once a week?
Mm-hmm.
As far as...
Please, just one person speaking at a time I appreciate
Once a week on Monday morning.
Okay. As far as other deliveries, do you get other deliveries from the Elks or something like that?
They just come and pull in and unload and move on. And then we have people who bring it when the pantry is closed, and we store it and bring it into the office itself.
Okay. And you said that the pantry operates twice a week?
No, sorry. It operates Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 1.
All right. And on your busiest day, how many vehicles would you say you...
Probably between 20 and 25, but typically around 20.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John, could you put the aerial back up showing the current situation out there, please? And Could you just point out the current path that traffic uses to access the pantry?
Straight onto Roseland.
It's right on Roseland?
I don't know that there is a set pattern. What I understand happens is there are a couple of trips that end up using the driveway, but many of the trips end up coming back and either parking along or at the back of the office and pantry area, and that area can get congested. And this alley, in this plat, all of the blocks have alleys. Some have been opened over the years, some have not been opened over the years. This one has an open alley that goes all the way through, traverses the entire block. So once somebody's at this point, they can either proceed through or essentially turn around and leave this direction.
Okay.
This portion of the alley is only really wide enough, for the most part, for a single vehicle to pass. Down here at this area, it's essentially widened into the property of the office and the pantry, so it's wider at this east end.
But the alley's not one way.
The alley is not signed
Okay.
or directionally one way, but functionally it would be tough in this area to...
And the proposed, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Just functionally it would be difficult to, you'd have to be careful in having two-directional traffic in this area.
All right. So, but Pastor, if you could come back, please. I just have one more question for you. I'm sorry. Could you, looking at this current aerial, could you tell us where the trucks go and where the people now go to access the facilities?
I'm directionally challenged, so I can try to explain it to you, but I'll do my best, William, but I'm not sure I'm going to do it well, so if I'm not saying it real well, maybe someone else can come and help me. But the truck comes in on Roseland Road and backs in off Roseland Road into a little parking area that is there.
All right.
When the truck's not there, cars park there and often back into Roseland Road, which is not a very safe thing to do. The traffic tends to go down 127th Court, turns left in the alleyway, and goes west. I said I was directionally challenged. I own that publicly, but goes west. And so that's typically the pattern that people use.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
John, I have a question, and maybe this has something to do with the letter. I don't know, but, I think one obligation that we would be thinking about as planning and zoning commissioners would just be, protecting neighborhoods and so on and so forth. And I know there have been issues and debates on occasion throughout the years about, churches and neighborhoods, and there's sometimes friction there. Has there been any concerns expressed to staff, or does such friction exist, and if so, what is the point of friction if it does exist for this, or is this just a well accepted plan and we can move forward with that without too much trouble?
There have been residents' concerns expressed over the years in relation to operational aspects of the church. There have been modifications made over time as far as whether parking in the street, parking in parking lots, and those type of operational aspects. Some use, some outdoor events. We had some residents concerned about a outdoor display of a pumpkin sale event a number of years ago. So there has been some concerns expressed. With relationship to this application and applications in Roseland, we do copy residents that have asked to be copied on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. They were copied at the pre-application meeting, and they attended some did attend the pre-application.
I understand.
Voiced some concerns there. And then also at the technical review committee, again, copied the residents that asked to be copied. some residents attended. And again, so the plan was laid out after listening to those concerns, and does it address all those concerns? I'm not sure that it does. Was it done with respect to those concerns and the concerns that were voiced? Yes.
But would it be fair to say in this instance, we're not changing any fundamental use, nor are we expanding upon any use that the church currently doesn't have. This is just deemed to be maybe a safer solution to an existing small problem. I mean, in other words, we're not creating a new pantry here. We're not expanding the hours of the pantry. We're not doubling the size of the use. We're just finding a way to move the traffic in and out a little in a way that makes more sense.
Correct. And thank you for bringing that up, because there is a little history, and let me just take a moment and explain that. The food pantry is a use that is grandfathered in, and it exists in the same building as the church office, which is the building across 129. And you're correct, we're not expanding that. This, is my understanding, is a response from the church to try to address what I think they believe are some of the concerns that are out there in an attempt to limit the use of that alley or make it more functional for everybody.
So you think that this is an attempt? This is perhaps interpretable as one way, as an attempt by the church to reduce the friction from other people in the neighborhood, perhaps.
I have to leave that up yet, perhaps.
Okay. Public hearing is still open. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this? Please come forward. Good evening. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Pat Hedman. I live at 12920 82nd Court. I'm contiguous to this proposed parking lot.
Can you show us where you can?
This is the first time I've seen this, so I feel a little daft here. I was copied to this meeting, but I had no other previous notifications. I live right there.
Where the pointer is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 10-4.
I own those. I own those 3 lots there.
Okay.
I'm concerned. Will there be lights? I mean, I understand the need for the food pantry. I don't know exactly when the food pantry came into existence, and believe me, there's more of a need for it now than ever. But it's my understanding that Roseland Methodist Church has been deemed by other local churches as the distribution point for the food pantry. There's other churches that aren't our neighborhoods. This has really impacted us. Right down to, we have homeless people in our neighborhood now. And I know they need to be fed. It just seems to me that there should be a better location. When you ask about the delivery of the truck, where the church office is and the food pantry, that abuts the alley.
Mm-hmm.
But the truck enters, the Walmart semi enters, it backs off Roseland Road and backs there. They also deliver food goods along 82nd Court in a box truck or a Penske truck. And that's a minimum of twice a week.
Well, let me ask you this, because that's one of the clarifications I wanted to make with staff here, is we're not really debating in this whether or not the pantry is going to continue to exist and be there or not. We're talking about the parking lot. So one thing that I grabbed onto almost immediately when you first started talking, I wish I had thought of it because it's a brilliant question, lighting. You know, things like this. So you're a neighbor.
Yes.
So this is going to be potentially, this is potentially going to impact you. Any other things that you can think of now that you would?
Are you familiar with this area? Have you done a drive-by?
Well, I've driven down Roseland, but no, I mean I'm not immediate.
To the east of the church, where it says Roseland Road, the lettering, if you look to the left, that parking lot's been put in the last 10 years. That belongs to the church, and that accommodates the preschool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a parking lot on the south side directly across the street from the church. Do you see what I'm speaking of? That also was a parking lot.
Correct.
Where the main church building is, that also is a parking lot. This parking lot was also added in the last couple of years. It's taken on the flavor of a commercial entity. Believe me, I understand how the church operates. But now it's impacted our neighborhood. When my husband and I first bought that property, the church has now encroached, if you will, towards the north into the neighborhood. There have been several houses that have been bulldozed. In the lot with the red square around it, that was an old home that suffered hurricane damage, had to be destroyed. I think there's a total of 5 homes now that have been destroyed in the Roseland neighborhood. We worked very hard on the Roseland corridor plan, not to have any commercial, to keep it a historic neighborhood, and it keeps moving north and becoming bigger. And yes, we're very concerned. Those are our homes. Those are our investments.
Let me ask you for specifics. If you were going to ask specifics for us to consider as conditions, let's say, I'm playing the what if game. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but if we were to approve this with conditions, I assume one of the conditions may be that there not be lighting or commercial style lighting in the parking lot. Are there anything else?
I'll tell you this. I'm a real estate broker and have been for 35 years, actively.
Ma'am.
I wouldn't buy my house with a church parking lot next to me and what's happened to our neighborhood.
We're not here to, you understand, we're not empowered to consider any of that.
I understand that, but that's the impact on the neighborhood. I'm sure you're familiar with what happened with the Daily Bread, downtown Melbourne. Keeps growing and growing and growing. I only ask that you be fair to not only the neighbors, but respect the historic district of Roseland. And the church has been there for 100 years. And it is a needed thing, very much so. But to expand and expand, pretty soon, the Methodist Church will be all of historic Roseland.
This is your home?
It is.
This is your primary, okay, thank you.
16 years. All done?
I am if you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, come on. Good evening. Just your name and address, please.
I'm Tammy Martin, 12925 82nd Avenue, and
can you show us where you are on?
Oh gosh,
Right.
what do I do with my finger? Or
No, just look at
just look at it?
Was it where the pointer is
Yes.
there?
The cursor is.
That's you?
Yes, we're my parents' home, which is where I live, and with my parents, Jean and Bill Martin. We're directly west of the food pantry.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mom and Dad's, well, I'm just here to say that we do get that truck in. It's only once a week. It's fine. I mean, I'm used to it. It's been going on for years, but it's kind of noisy out there Monday morning. We don't have any buffer between the food pantry and our home, which is, we share the property line with the food pantry. So there's no buffer. We could put a fence up. I don't know. I've talked to my father about putting a fence up there, for some privacy. But I'm just here to say that I did bring pictures, which are from our home, and they're from my point of view, like when we're trying to come home down the alleyway, the little one-car width alleyway that runs behind the food pantry. It's north of the food pantry, and it'd be south of the proposed parking lot.
Yes.
That alley leads right to our garage, and we have to back out from the garage into the alley. So we would love to have some parking, some organized parking, because right now it's just real disorganized and it's very dangerous. And I brought these pictures because it shows from my house. They're taken from like our driveway up to the front of the house, which is near the Roseland Road. Our driveway comes into the front of our house. The front of our house is along Roseland Road. We have a driveway off the Roseland Road, coming off Roseland Road.
Okay,
And then,
I don't want to interrupt, but we have a document camera that you can put the pictures on and
kind of
show
tell
them
you?
that way. Yes, then you can describe
We would just
what
love
you're taking a look at.
to have a parking lot and
So
just some
go
organization.
ahead and get the document cam up, please, if you would, and then we'll be able to take a look at your pictures.
And ma'am, while he's doing that, let me. I just want to make sure I understand you correctly. What I think I've heard you say is
Yeah.
that you actually think it will be an improvement to have this parking lot done because so from your perspective, this will be an
I don't
improvement.
want to have anyone else's property degraded, but
But it's a plus for you.
it would
You'd
be
like
so
to have
nice.
a buffer between your property and the.
I would pray,
Ideally.
I mean, if God's granting special gifts today, I would pray for a buffer. But, if that can't be done, I understand. But just like this picture, I'm in my mom's car. Mom's driving in this photo, and we're trying to get home. And we can't, I mean, there are people all over. I just happened to have my cell phone with me, and I said, let me get a picture of this, Mom. So I took a shot. That's just a typical day on the alley.
No, I understand.
And our garage is just past those cars, which is where my mom parks her car,
Yes, ma'am.
inside the garage, and that's behind our house. But we also have just a little driveway in front of our house
Right.
with no garage.
Right.
But
Ma'am, the sign that's in this, does that say no parking?
Yes.
Okay. And this is located,
This is the alley.
this is the alley. Okay.
that's not the alley, that's Roseland Road. But it's just, we've got, it's like, imagine having a convenience store or just something small like an antique shop with no parking lot, no parking area for the customer. I mean, that's what we've got. We've got, like, nowhere for them to go, and it's like a little place to pick up stuff, and there's no parking really except for the little driveway, in the picture there. So they're stressed. They're trying to find somewhere to park their cars. So
And I take it those are more no parking signs that you can see?
yeah,
Okay.
they are. The church put those up for me because I had asked Mr. McCoy for some no parking signs, and that was in 2005. 2005, they put those up.
Any other ones?
Yeah, well, that one's not so pretty. This one we're showing. I don't know. My only thing is this one would be good, I think. Because this is right in front of our home. It's the Roseland Road.
Yeah.
And, I don't know that man. He was very nice. He came out and told me that was his car and he was at the food pantry. And that's our press journal box. It's just right in front of our house, and we get a lot of parking right there. So they really need, it's I can't think of the word. It's necessary, and something's necessary for the people that work there, the volunteer at the food pantry, for the staff of the office, the church office, which is the same building, and for the people coming to get their food.
No, I understand.
Okay, I think that's it. But I understand everybody's point of view, and everybody's right in their own way. So, but for the safety, like the representative of the church was saying, for safety's sake, I think the parking lot's very necessary.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
John, let me ask you a question. I have a couple of questions. First of all, are lights part of this plan?
Lights are not part of the plan, as to my knowledge. We haven't approved any
But
lights.
it could be made a condition of the plan.
That is correct.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, in terms of, I think, legitimate concerns of neighbors who seem to be very understanding, which is nice. There's a good feeling about that. What about a buffer fence, something like that, between the well, I know there's already one done on the parcel we're contemplating. Obviously, was it a Type B buffer that's going to go along the entire property line? But what about between the property line of the existing building and, I mean, you can't do that, can you?
I'm going to defer to the attorneys as to how far any condition could reach.
That's I'm already anticipating saying, you can't do that.
That would be more difficult because that part of the church is not subject to this special exception. So unless the church would be willing to do something like that as a concession, that would be fine, but it could not be made as part of a requirement.
I'm not crazy about that, and I'm not crazy about the parking on Roseland, 129th, and the alley, all of which I understand all you good people are here to solve that problem completely. But, and hopefully this will, resolve most, if not all of it. Outside of that, what other measures can be taken besides a sign that everyone clearly is ignoring that says no parking to keep people from parking in people's front yards on Roseland or on 120, just pulling up? I mean, what would a traffic engineer say is a way to solve that? Because that's not great. Which everyone I think here agrees. That's what we're here trying to solve. But I'm not sure that just the parking behind will completely solve that problem.
Correct. And part of that is an educational effort in making sure that whether you be a first-time patron or a 10th-time patron, you understand where and how to access the facility. And that's a job that needs to occur there. As to whether there can be any type of physical type of measures taken that would encourage or direct. Again, that's what we try to do with that driveway, pulling it back to the north, making the radius so it only goes in one direction. Through physical design, we try to encourage that type of behavior. But I'm not sure what can be done to encourage those types of behaviors short of signs, short of some physical measures, other than education and
I can only speak for myself. I'm inclined to recommend physical measures because, I hear the neighbors being, in large part, very understanding. Bless their hearts. I mean, very understanding, and for good reason. This is a good cause. I mean, this is a good thing happening here. But having you can't have people parking in your. I mean, that only goes so far. When somebody, I think we all understand it. When someone's parking in your front yard because they haven't been educated about it, that's a drag. If it's been going on for years and years and years, I could see how you'd be in favor of the parking lot, and we're all hopeful that would solve it. But that's a leap of faith. I'm not sure. I'm not. The guidelines of the signs are being. I mean, I don't know how more educated can you be than to look at a sign that says no parking and willfully ignore it. So, would it be a reasonable? I can't make a recommendation. I'm the chairman, but would it be reasonable for us to kick this back to traffic and engineering and say that they should maybe consider some additional measures or contemplate additional measures for 129th Place, maybe the alley, and certainly along Roseland in front of the neighbor's house? I mean, and then a condition that there wouldn't be any lights, and then some kind of buffer between the neighbor's house and the pantry, I think would be a welcome gesture. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Do you want to say anything? Does anybody else want to say anything? I'm sorry, I'm rambling on.
Yeah, I have a question just for any member of the public. I don't believe that lights would be required for a food pantry that operates from 10 to 2. I don't see how that would come into play in this situation.
Meaning we could reasonably make it a condition, is what you're suggesting.
Forward, ma'am.
Yeah. Your name and address, please.
Marilyn Waldes, 1462 Bevan Drive, Sebastian. I'm a member of the church.
Yes, ma'am.
And I may need some help from some of the members of the church, but we have tried to do our best with keeping the parking off those streets. Putting up the no parking signs and things. And if I'm correct, in that alleyway where it looks like it's wider, where the cars are parking now along behind the church office, that's our property. It's not the alleyway. The original alleyway was that narrow strip. So we did put no parking signs on the north side of the alley so cars wouldn't park along there and block that alley up. So we have tried very hard to eliminate the parking problems at the church. And I don't know. I haven't ever seen, but she's got the picture, and I'm sure it does happen that they do park in front of Terry's house. And we try our best to help her with her situation there. So I just wanted to bring that up to your attention for the church's behalf.
Thank you.
Could I answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Your concern about people parking where there are no parking signs. Word of mouth gets around a lot with people who come to the pantry. I think the pantry can close that driveway and say, if you park out there, you will not be served. And that probably would take care of the people parking out there, because we could refuse to serve them if they did not park and go where they're supposed to. And we've talked a long time about closing that driveway, except to get the one truck in there. That we have the one big delivery. It is not a semi, it's just a big steak truck. It is refrigerated. That comes on Monday morning, and it takes him probably 20 minutes to unload 2 pallets of food. The other food that's delivered is usually delivered in pickup trucks. People come in with a pickup truck or van and bring the food in that way. But we don't only get one big truck a week. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't swear.
Nope. You need to come up here to the podium, please. If you haven't been sworn in, it's certainly not too late. We can swear you in right now up at the podium.
Right here?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Gloria Fennell. I didn't...
Excuse me, would you raise your right hand? Yes. Do you, just give front.
Stay right there.
Stay there.
Stay there.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
And your name and address, please, Mrs. Fennell.
You can.
I just want to say one thing, and this whole program today...
Excuse me, what is your name?
The main thing...
Give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
Oh, I'm Gloria Fennell. I'm 925 Gulfstream Avenue, Sebastian. And I'm part of the Ecumenical Council, which includes many churches in our area. The one thing that stands out to me is the safety. People backing out on Roseland Road, and especially during the winter, the traffic has been much worse than usual, and it doesn't seem to have calmed down too much. And it's hard to back out with cars coming both ways. And to me, it's such a safety problem. Somebody's going to get really hurt. And of course, it's a matter of being sued too if something happens. That it's. But I think that should be really considered so much because of the safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fennell. Okay, I'm inclined to close the public hearing unless anyone else wants to speak this evening. Yes, one more. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Kelso.
I'm sorry?
Kathy Kelso.
Hi. And your address is?
12905 82nd Court. And I live adjacent from the property.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've lived there in the 70s. My husband moved in 1973. The person previous, Miss Martin, her family's been there since 1957, so I think that supersedes 16 years. And I would like to say that the church on a whole has been an asset, and they've never been a nuisance neighbor, which is more than I can say for the person that says she has real estate experience. And I don't want to say any more other than I'd rather live by the church. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close. Yep. I did promise you I'd let you get the last word, didn't I?
I don't know if it was during the public hearing or after.
That's all right.
Just in response to some of the comments, just to the commissioners, John, can you put up the landscape plan, please? The property to the west, currently right now there's a 6-foot-high wood fence from the property to the west to this property. And, when we look at these landscape plans, you see a big blotch of ink, and you don't realize what's really going there. But I wanted to point out what we are planning for the neighbors' concerns so they don't think this is some big commercial parking lot coming in. First of all, it's basically a cleared lot right now with this one structure on it. Along the west property line, we're proposing to put in 3 large canopy trees, 3 additional canopy trees, 16 understory trees, and 54 shrubs. So we're talking about planting 22 trees down the west property line for the buffering between the west property and this lot. If you drive up there right now, the lot itself, like I said, is a clear piece of ground. When you look at the total landscaping that's being put in, there was a lot of effort to make it all native vegetation, and so it would be more residential in nature than the lot that exists there right now, which is just a straight out cleared piece of property. Right now there's a little row of cedar trees that's on along 129th at the southeast corner, and there's a row of cedar trees along the alley.
No, we understand what a type B buffer is, and it's very
Right.
substantial. Actually, my inquiry was not so much about between this parcel and the property to the west. The thing I was inquiring about was about the parcel that is the pantry right now and the property to the west of that. The neighbor of whom spoke this evening and the lawyer of whom advised me that we can't make that a condition of this thing.
And I understand.
But it would be a good neighborly gesture.
Well, what we did do, there was a staff recommendation to plant, originally the staff wanted a fence, but we agreed to plant a series of shrubs to form at the end of the driveway on the west side of that food pantry that would prevent traffic from coming through that area from Roseland onto the alley. So it wasn't a mandatory requirement, but we did agree to do it. And in response to the lights, we have no problem with the condition of the lights. John had brought up that issue during TRC. We responded to it that there are no lights proposed with the project. And we've tried to make it as benign as possible, and I would hope the commissioners would put some consideration that in today's economic times, the church has come forward to try to improve a situation that is existing. As the commissioner said, it's an existing use, and this small little grass area is going to help the situation, and it will get cars off the alley, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing if we're done. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Discussion? Comments? Thoughts?
Would it help if the alleyway was a one-way?
Can you speak into the... I can't...
Sorry. Would it help if the alley was one-way? So that people had to go around that way and then out?
Question, she made a query about whether it would help if the alleyway was one way.
With the alley being one way, it's probably best to get input from the residents and from traffic engineering as to how it functions today and what would be the best way for it to function if it were made a single direction. And I don't know that would help, but I think it would take some input from the residents, making sure we understood operationally how it most normally or how it most often works.
Todd, Jordan, anything?
No.
Nothing?
I mean, no, the only thing I'd really like to see is the barrier between the existing pantry and that house, but we can't make that a condition, so.
John, one question: Are there any signs proposed to direct traffic, as far as enter here, exit here?
Yes, there are. There are signs, primarily to direct traffic back to Roseland Road and make sure that anybody coming in exits back to the south.
We can't make a condition, but as part of our recommendation to the Board of County Commissions, we can say that it is our strong inclination that we would like to see the parties work out a solution.
No. The minutes will reflect that. And now you're starting to do some. No, I'll leave it at that. And the minutes are included with the matter that's brought to the commission, and they will be. The discussion will be reflected.
Could we recommend a traffic study if we were to, whatever decision is made today, for the use of the property, or perhaps whether that alley should be one way?
Traffic is something that is always studied. When an application like this comes in, I think you would be within your review to recommend that staff consult with our traffic folks or the engineer of record. I'd hate to see a full-blown traffic study be a recommendation, but I think you would be within your rights to recommend that staff provide additional input as to the issue of traffic. And then I think if you would list those items of your concern as far as possibly making one-way parts of the alley, adding directional signs that may provide for ingress,
parking on the road, parking on Roseland.
And I think that might be a problem best solved with a couple of the volunteer deputies that would arrive during the peak times and simply instruct the people not to park where they're not supposed to.
I also think the way the landscape buffers are going to go in, it's going to drive people to go not walking across because you have to go up the street, so parking won't be as mayhemy with those berms. Looks like to me anyway.
I think you're
so
right.
If it was a one-way street with the sign saying this is where you enter, it would keep people from walking and leaving their car wherever. That's what it looked like haphazard in that picture. There was some pointing in each direction and the cars couldn't get through.
Any more discussion, or is there a motion?
I guess I'll make a motion to approve
Mr. Brognano?
with, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Sure. With P&Z recommendations that there be some sort of new signage maybe put out on Roseland Road to prevent these people from parking in front of people's homes. In addition to that, some very clear signage into what direction you're going to want that alleyway to flow. Of course, that can be discussed between staff and the members of the community. Maybe you can come up with a plan how you'd like that alley to go. That's it. Second.
Is there a second?
I'll second Todd's motion.
Discussion. My only point is, I can't make a motion, but I think the lighting thing might be something you want to amend your.
Sure, I'd like to amend my motion and add in there that there'll be no lighting on these new parking spaces.
And Jordan, are you in agreement with that?
I'm in agreement. I'll second that as well.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's carried unanimously. None opposed. Thank you. Any commissioners' matters? Anybody have anything? Planning matters? Item number 6 on our agenda.
Yes, Chairman Zimmerman. Just a couple of planning matters. Since your last meeting, the Board of County Commissioners did approve the Gifford mixed-use development. That was June 10th, and that was unanimous with the Family Dollar and the housing. Looking forward, we're looking at, it's very unlikely we'll have a July 10th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but it is very likely that we will have a July 24th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And also at the July 15th Planning and Board of County Commissioners meeting, the Gifford Neighborhood Plan will be discussed as an item of interest. Thank you. That's all.
Just threw away my agenda. Attorney's matters, Mr. DeBrawl.
I have no matters, Mr. Chairman.
We're adjourned. Thank you.